Hello my students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Myself Professor Vijay Kumar Chaudhary, retired professor, Department of Library and Information Science, Sambalpur University, Odisha. I am going to discuss you today module latest trends in bibliographic description and exchange formats, especially with ISBD and CCF. Paper is Knowledge Organization Structure Cataloging. Before I discuss clearly and elaborately this module, I would like to tell you that after carefully reading this module, you will have a clear-cut idea about what is ISBD. What do you mean by ISBD? ISBD means International Standard Bibliographic Description. Then I will discuss what is CCF. CCF means Common Communication Format. So, I have written very lucidly, I will discuss with you, so that you can remember easily without any difficulty. So, then first I have to come, what is the introduction? Why ISBD and CCF are necessary in this library world? If we will go to trace the history of library cataloging, in 1967, the Anglo-American Cataloging Rules first edition was published in 67. But after that, so many knowledge, so many books, so many documents have been published, and the catalogers felt difficult how to catalog those documents where the rules are not given in Anglo-American Cataloging Rules first edition 67. So, they made a convention of meeting in 1969. So, how to tackle such problems faced by the cataloger. Then what happened? After long discussions, after long deliberations, they have decided that we must originate or devise or devise some ISBD structure. So, before coming to that, the basic necessity is this, this is an IT era, and it is very difficult to locate and receive all types of information from all types of resources. Secondly, people are interested to share the resources, because no library is self-sufficient to supply all the documents required by the readers. So, they have to depend on the resources of others. So, they want to make resource sharing. So, resource sharing, if you want to make resource sharing with one library to another library, your standard format of cataloging should be same with that format of that standard format cataloging of that library. Otherwise, you cannot exchange your information, you cannot share the views and resources of other libraries. Secondly, due to the sky-touching prices, people and the library are failing totally not to purchase everything, and there is also inadequate library budget in the library. So, the librarian feels helpless how to tackle such problems, how to satisfy number of readers with a limited budget and with the limited documents. And objective, so basing on those things, on these points which I have discussed just now, I want to discuss this module. Why it is necessary, what is the objectives of ISBD, what is the characteristics of ISBD, why ISBD is necessary, and what is the format of ISBD. So, that after reading this module or after listening from me, you will have a very clear-cut idea regarding this module. What is the characteristics and very purpose of bibliography description? What is the standard format which facilitates for consistency and uniformity bibliography description? You must adopt such cataloging format that you must maintain uniformity and consistency. Sometimes you are doing some catalogs, some documents, same document you are giving another bibliography description, it will not come uniformity, or there will be inconsistency. Then the meaning of exchange formats and the reasons for emergence of CCF. I will discuss in detail with you regarding the CCF, but CCF is also why it is necessary, that also we will discuss. Then what is the objective, function and structure? What is the objective of ISBD? What is the function? What is the utility of ISBD and structure? Then lastly we will discuss the. So, first I am coming to the point of ISBD, international standard bibliography distribution. What are the reasons why the ISBD was formulated by the library science people, by the so many library experts? So, as I told you, for more than 40 years, you know, IFLA is the one organization who is taking a lot of interest and initiation for development of the cataloging, and especially in the library science field. So, to have standardization in the format, they have made lot of initiations, and the most valuable contribution is ISBD. Then the next point, what is the other reason? Continuing influence of the forces that prompted their formulation of the first place. So, all the libraries, they are interested to change those rules and to give a standard format. So, there is a impact, there is a lot of pressure given by the other libraries. Then, as I told you, inadequate library budget. What do you mean by inadequate? Insufficient library budget leads to economic necessity. There is a financial crisis. There is a financial crisis in the country. So, since the country is facing financial crisis, they are giving less financial support to IUC, and in the other form, IUC also giving less adequate budget to the library. So, there is insufficient library budget. So, with this insufficient library budget, it in the other hand, it has got pressurized the library. You should go for resource sharing, so that your problems will be solved. So, then the need of library automation. Nowadays, all the libraries, they are going for automation, because physically giving information, physically giving service to the readers, time taking, it is not satisfied, and the readers are not, they don't want to waste their time. So, also it will achieve bibliography control, UBC, Universal Bibliography Control. So, all these points, all these reasons in forces that let us go for some common format, that is ISBD. So, already I have told you, ISBD intended to serve as the main component of IFLA program to make globally and promptly available the basic bibliography information for publication in the countries, because you know, most of the libraries are following AASCR2 code, and if you will minorly examine and if you will minorly analyze, it is seen that all these AASCR2, the description part of AASCR2 is basically based on ISBD. So, first they have to devise ISBD, then the codes are revised. Then what is the history? What is the development of ISBD? So, if you will know, in 1969, for the first time in the library cataloging field, a working group was formed, and the international meeting of cataloging experts, those were the cataloging experts, they are invited at Copenhagen, which marked the beginning of this process. And there was a lot of discussion, lot of arguments, counter arguments were held. So many resolutions were passed. So, ultimately in 1971, for the first time in the world, they have devised ISBD-M. M was published in 1974. But what happened after 1974? So many materials, different types of documents came into the world, because knowledge is dynamic, knowledge is not finite, it is infinite. So, to cope up with this knowledge explosion, so many documents have been published. So, subsequently they have devised ISBD for computer file, cartographic material, audio visual material, like that. Further, ISBD means what? ISBD general material was also brought out, to which will give lot of scope to other materials. Then comes the ER. ER means electronic resources. So, again they have formulated ISBD for electronic resources, how to catalog electronic resources, which I have discussed with you. So, in 2002, this periodical serials have been changed to continuing resources in 2002. Now, let us discuss what are the important objectives of ISBD. What is the benefits of ISBD? First is to make records generating from different sources which can be interchanged, that is called interchangeable, so as to facilitate global networking. Because You cannot go to USA Library of Congress to bring a document. By sitting in Delhi, can you go to bring your required document to Library of Congress USA? No. So through networking, through library, international library loan, you can have the scope for interchange of the documents. Second is for interpretation overriding the language barrier. Language barrier means, suppose a book is published in German language or French language. When it comes to your library as required by a reader, neither the reader nor the librarian, they cannot understand the German language. But in that German language book, there are some important information required by the either research scholar or by the user. So what will happen? So the language is coming, posing a problem before this thing. So how can you bring that book from German language? You don't know German language. If you like English language, the Library of Germany people, they cannot understand your English language. So if you will analyze ISBD, in the last part of ISBD, that is the 8th area, there is ISBN is there. What is ISBN? International Standard Book Number. It is a 10-digit number. So if you will code that number, the library of that German library, they can understand, because they know what these 10 numbers are used. If you translate this, they will get the title of the author, a title of the book and the name of the author. They can very easily send that book to you. So language is not a problem. Language is not a barrier for bringing the books. So there is a international communication of bibliographic information between national and linguistic groups can be done without any problem. Then the next point is intended to provide data required in various bibliographic activities. That is not only in library cataloging, but also in the announcement of new publications. Then lastly, to facilitate the free flow of information by facilitating the exchange of bibliographic records in one database to machine readable form, which was not possible before the advent of ISBD. What the purpose of ISBD? So ISBD helps standardization of cataloging rules and manual format for machine readable bibliographic records. So if we compare with the ASCR 1 first edition, that was totally failed for library automation or for machine readable. Your library cannot go for library automation work. Then the second is to make publication identifiable by the description alone without the aid of heading of main and added entry or informed title. Then the last is to provide a uniform descriptive framework for all types of library materials, whether it is printed, whether it is non-book material, that will serve varied bibliographical uses. So these are the very main important purposes of ISBD. Then the other purposes is designed primarily as an instrument for the international communication of bibliographic information, that I have already told you. It should also amenable to machine readable form and development of ASCR to meet the ISBD standards and recommendations. So as such, those libraries, they are using the ASCR 2 cataloging rules, and if they will follow ISBD format, their library can be very conveniently, very easily converted to library automation work. Or you can say, I have got a computerized cataloging. So ISBD helps in this regard. Then what are the characteristics of ISBD? It is a very comprehensiveness. Lot of rules, regulations, examples are given. So scope is very wide, very comprehensive. It is fixed order of data elements, and if I will discuss you later on what are the elements of item of information you will be given in that format. Then its use of punctuation marks. You see, suppose you are residing in your house and there is a neighbor residing you. So in between your house and your neighbor's house, there must be some demarcation. What do you mean by demarcation? In this case, demarcation is the wall. Wall is the demarcation between your house and your neighbor's house. So in this case, in the field of cataloging, the punctuation marks or the delimiters are divides between one item of information along with the other type of item of information. So, if you are writing one item of information and another new item of information is coming, you have to apply punctuation marks, sometimes comma, sometimes semicolon, sometimes full stop, space, dash. So, these are the punctuation marks divides or demarcates between one item of information to the second item information. Then what is the scope of ISBD? Scope means what are the items of information are outlined or prescribed in the ISBD format. So, basically there are 8 areas of description. So, at best the cataloger can give either 8 areas or any areas of 8 with the appropriate punctuation marks, with the appropriate item of information basing on the nature of the document, because all the 8 areas of description is not necessary for all types of documents, but for giving free hand to the cataloger they have given 8 areas of description. So, first is title. What is the title of the book? Then statement of responsibility. Statement of responsibility means, suppose one book, Theory of Cataloging, written by Professor Krishnan Kumar. So, the title is Theory of Cataloging, statement of responsibility is Krishnan Kumar, because Krishnan Kumar has written that book. So, responsibility goes to the author, that is Krishnan Kumar. Then comes the edition, whether it is 3rd edition, whether it is 3rd revised edition. Then comes the material. What type of material is? So, material is not applicable in all types of material documents, non-material, but it is also useful basing on the nature of document, type of document. Then comes the publication area. What will give publication area? So, just after the edition statement, you give a full stop, space, dash, then write the place of publication, where it is published, then give a colon, then who is the publisher, then give a comma, when it is published, what is the date of publication, 2008, 2009, 2000, like that. Then comes the physical description. What is the physical description? Regarding a book, how many preliminary pages there, how many pages are there, whether it is colored, and what is the size of the book. And in case of non-book materials, I have explained earlier in detail what are the physical description. So, I am telling which item of information will come first, which will come next, which will come next according to this format. Then comes the series. If there is a series, just after the physical description, you give full stop, space, dash, within circular bracket, you write the name of series. Series means McGraw series or series in chemistry, like that. Then comes the notes. If there is any special feature or significant information is given in that book, you can give in the note section. That is the 7th area. Then the last area is standard number. That I told you, in case of books it is ISBN, in case of journal it is International Standard Serial Number, ISSN. So, these are the 8 areas of prescribed. Then I have given you a simple format, a specimen of main entry. You see, I have written call number, class number, book number. Then you write the heading. Heading means what? The creator of the work or the author. Then what I have given scope, I have explained by giving the punctuation marks. I have told what? Title, you will write first. That is the first indentation, that is second indentation. So, after title you give a parallel sign if there is a parallel title. Then give a slash to write the name of the author, statement of responsibility. Then give semicolon, subsequent statement of responsibility. What do you mean by subsequent statement of responsibility? It means if there is a joint author, if there is an editor, if there is a translator, you can give their names. Then give full stop, space, dash, give the edition. Then full stop, space, dash. These are the demarcation. Give the place of publication, as I told you, colon, place of publication, year of publication. Then the physical description. Then full stop, dash, series. If there is series number, also series number give. Then note. After that, just after that, give the note. If there is an important note, you can write. Then you write the ISBN. Then tracing. Tracing, what do you see? ISBD is only confined to 8 areas. Tracing is not a part of ISBD format. Tracing is a local variation. Tracing, what do you mean by tracing? Tracing means a record of added entries that you have prepared for a document. So, tracing is done by the library cataloger, library staff, because to satisfy the other approaches of the readers, sometimes you can prepare one added entry. Added means what? Supplementary entry. extra entry for joint author, for editor, for translator, for title, like that, for series. So, that is the tracing, but it is not coming under the ISBD format. So, let us discuss about common communication format. Why it is called common communication? Because you must devise such a format which is very easily the libraries can interchange with the other libraries. The exchange of information, the flow of information, exchange of information will be very easy. So, first of all, I would like to tell you the fast growth of institutional bibliographic exchange format with the lack of compatibility among the different libraries. Lack of compatibility means, what do you mean? Because suppose my library uses some computer configuration, having some computer programs, different computer, and other libraries are having this other configuration of computer and other Microsoft Office. So, in this case you cannot easily exchange the information from my library to your library. So, there must be a compatible. Compatible means the computer programs, the computer configuration must have a tally with the other computers. Otherwise, free flow of exchange information cannot be done easily. Then what happened? Each of the organizations for the urgent and to agree upon a common communication format. So, since the library need that it is the high time we must exchange our information, so that our readers will be highly satisfied. So, they feel the need of the change of the information. So, they feel that some sort of format must be devised, so that this can be easily done. So, International Symposium on Bibliography Exchange formats with the initiation by UNESCO General Information Program in April 1979, they have started. They have invited many library experts, and they wanted a seminar, a conference, a get together, and in Tasmania, Sicily, and to have desirability and feasibility of establishing a maximum compatibility between existing bibliographic exchange formats. Because what happened, now there are a lot of formats are available in the world. You see, some library using Mark, some are using Mark 21, some are using US Mark, some are using UK Mark, some are using Canadian Mark, some are using Malaysian Mark. So, lot of formats they are using in the library in the world. So, if they are using a lot of formats, so the format is different from one library to another. So, how they can exchange the format, exchange the information? So, they are totally impossible. So, the symposium is organized with the view that we must come to an agreement, come to a conclusion that we must follow a common format. Since we will follow a format which is common to all the libraries, the name is given common communication format. So, the genesis, how it came to the cataloging field, just I will discuss in a very nutshell, in a very point wise. So, after long deliberations by the experts, they formed a ad hoc group, and the ad hoc group has, after long deliberations, discussions, arguments, counter arguments, they have arrived at consensus for drafting a CCF with the following guidelines. So, the CCF will be drafted based on what guidelines? So, basically they have finalized the guidelines. What are the guidelines? The structure of the new format. What is the structure of new format? Will be in accordance with the International Standard Organization 2709. You must be very careful, remember this. So, whatever the format is there, it must be based on some standard structure. Then that the core record, the basic record would consist of small number of mandatory data elements. What do you mean by mandatory data elements? Mandatory means compulsory. So, all the formats, they must have some kind of mandatory data elements, all the libraries, essential to bibliography description. So, these elements will help for a description of the bibliography. What do you mean by bibliography? Biblo means book. So, the information about the book or in a broad category document description, it is called the bibliography description. So, identified in a standard manner. So, the basic is it must be based on number of mandatory data elements. Then the standard technique would be developed to accommodate levels, relationship and links between the bibliographic entities. Most importantly, it will also recommend that CCF should provide a meaningful link between the major exchange formats basing on ISBD. So, it is not a total out rejection of the ISBD. It is CCF will be formed basing on ISBD. So, most of the informations given in ISBD earlier, they will also agree, they will also take to this format. Also, they have given that do not worry, those libraries, those are using ISBD, they should not be scared, they should not fear. How they will convert their record to CCF? So, they have told that since CCF is based on ISBD, so those libraries they are following ISBD format, they are very conveniently, very easily convert their format to common communication format. So, what is rational? So, when within an information system, the records which form the database will usually exist in a number of separate and highly compatible formats. So, at least there will be, so what will be the formats? A format in which the records will be input to the system, that scope must be there. Secondly, a format suited to long term storage. You must choose or select such system that for a long term, long range term storage must be there. A format to facilitate retrieval. You must retrieve the information quickly. So, retrieve means what? After retrieving, you will deliver the information to the clients, to the users. A format in which records will be displayed. So, your record must be displayed so that the readers can know. Then what is the need of CCF? Why we basically need? So, the first and foremost need of CCF is remarkably significant. If two or more organizations, as I have told you, intends like to exchange records with one another, it cannot be achieved. I have discussed with you earlier, unless and until each of the organizations come to an agreement, they must agree that to adopt common standard format for exchange purposes. Otherwise the CCF cannot be practiced. Then the second is the information interchange within that country, if is possible, so also will be greatly facilitated both technically and economically if there is a single national standard exchange format. Suppose we want to exchange the information between India to USA. So, we must agree to a common standard format, otherwise we cannot exchange the information either within a country or abroad. The next is, if the standard format of each country is different from all others, then it will be more problematic. It is difficult and complex to have international information interchange among national bibliography agencies. Since you have to go for a number of computer programs, you have to write a number of computer programs that must be written to accommodate the translation of records from one format to another. So, it is very difficult, it is time consuming, so it may not be possible. Then the next point is, the most significant factor is to go for a common and compatible format to achieve uniformity, consistency among different kinds of agencies, either from a bibliography center to bibliography center or from library to library, creating bibliography records easily. Then what is the scope of CCF? The CCF is basically designed to provide a standard format for three major purposes. So, it will serve three major purposes. What are those major purposes? To permit the exchange of bibliographic records between the groups of libraries and the abstracting and indexing services. So, if we follow CCF, the scope is like this. Then the next is to permit a bibliography agency to use a single set of computer programs to manipulate bibliography records received from both the libraries and the abstracting and indexing services. So, when you will get the information from other abstracting and libraries, so since there is a single use of single computer program, you can very easily use those information. Then third is to serve the basis of format for an agency's own bibliography database. That will also be useful for the own bibliography database of that particular library by providing a list of useful data elements. So uses of CCF. So how we will use this? By specifying a small number of mandatory data elements which are recognized by all the sectors of the information community as essential in order to identify an item. So mandatory data elements, mandatory and optional, there are two words are there. So mandatory data elements means compulsory data elements must be you must give, so that it will be recognized by all sectors of the information community in order to identify an item. To identify an item means item in document or work or book, you must apply some common mandatory data elements. By providing mandatory data elements that are sufficiently flexible to accommodate, also it must be flexible to accommodate varying descriptive practices, because some practice you are doing, some practice are followed by other library. So you must give them flexibility. By providing a number of optional elements, as I told you, there are mandatory and optional. So optional elements you can give, which may be useful to describe an item according to the practice of the agency. So there are some local area is there, local condition is there, so that to practice in the locally optional elements you must give scope in this format, so that the libraries to cope with the local variation they can apply. By providing a mechanism for linking records and segments of records without imposing on the originating agency any informal practice regarding the treatment of related groups of records of data elements. So you cannot impose on the particular agency for this. Then comes the structure of CCF. What it contains, how the structure is. So the record structure of the CCF comprises a specific implementation of the internal standard, as I told you, ISO 2709. Hence, each CCF consists of 4 major parts. Structure means which parts it contains. So first is record level, second is in directory, third is data fields, then is record separator. Now discuss what is a record level. So each CCF record begins with a fixed length level LABL of 24 characters to provide parameter to process record. So the first record is of 24 characteristics. Then comes the directory. The directory is a table containing a suitable number of 14 character entries. The table is terminated by a field separator. Each table is terminated, means demarcated by a terminator, separator by a field separator or terminator. As I told you, in case of ISBD, it is demarcated with the help of full stop, space, dash. So also it is in the case of field separator in CCF. Each directory entry component to an corresponds to an occurrence of a data field in the record and is divided into 5 parts. So what are those 5 parts? One is tag. Tag means the length of data field, starting character position, segment identifier and accuracy identifier. The next is data fields. So data field consists of these following things. So which one? A data field consists of indicators, one or more subfields, each of which practiced by a subfield identifier. Identifier is there, subfield identifier, a data field separator. Then comes the record separator. What do you mean by record separator? Record separator is nothing but the record separator is of character having 1/13 of ISO 646. So whatever the given ISO 646, it is being utilized in record separator, is the final character of the record. It follows the field separator of the field data field of the record. Then lastly, I would like to discuss with you what are the features of CCF. What is the very unique features? The very unique feature of CCF attracts many institutions, information centers and other organizations of various countries as mentioned under. As all the necessary data elements are incorporated, are given, are provided, it can be used to produce catalog cards. So, while producing catalog cards, all necessary data elements are being provided. The next is no cataloging rules are imposed as it is user friendly and rather cataloging friendly. So, as we are using heavily the cataloging rules of ASR2, it is not in the case of CCF. Then secondly, as it is a flexible and very popular format, many developing countries are adopting it for the creation of bibliographic records and in machine readable form. Machine readable means what? The records which can be read by the machine readable. Machine means computer. So, absolutely there is no problem for bibliography agencies following ASR2 can be conveniently converted to CCF format. So, as I told you earlier, you should not, the libraries should not fear, should not be scared that I am using ASR2, how can I go for CCF? So, they have given scope that those libraries they are following ASR2 rules and ISBD format, they can very easily converted their database, their catalog records to CCF. Then provisions of basic data elements facilitate to optional elements and private fields, thus enabling as agency to incorporate new standard elements considered important. If an agency feels that there are some elements are important for the library, they can give. Then secondly, how it facilitates a library? It facilitates a library and bibliographic agency to use a single set of computer programs for the exchange data. So, if you use, as I told you many times, that the library, if they want to exchange the information between one library to another library, those bibliography agencies must use a single set of computer programs. Then the provision of the mandatory data elements which are flexible and can accommodate varying descriptive practices. So, whatever descriptive practices you are doing, there are mandatory data elements that you can avail the opportunity of that one. The next is its simple set of data elements that can be used to any bibliographic level and are dissociated from cataloging records. Then the last point is CCF is specifically designed for retrieval and output within an institution. It neither includes its own cataloging rules nor recommends any particular cataloging code oriented towards any specific type of outer format. So, it is independent of ASR rules. Hopefully, as I have explained you very lucidly, very explanatory, elaborately, you will understand what is ISBD format, why it is necessary, what are the reasons, why CCF came to library cataloging field, and what is the CCF structure, everything, and why it is useful.